Man, what a gut punch that was in Detroit. 4 quarters of just getting absolutely worked over, and here we are at 6-6-1, staring down the barrel of what could either be a miraculous run or another disappointing finish. But you know what? That's exactly where this team finds itself every single year, isn't it? Sitting on that razor's edge between hope and heartbreak. And now we've got the Vikings coming to town on Sunday Night Football with the whole world watching. The question is, can this team actually show up when it matters, or are we just setting ourselves up for more pain? What's up, Cowboys? Welcome to the NFL Playbook Cowboys. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This channel is all about breaking down everything you need to know about the America's team. Look, I'm not going to sugarcoat what happened in Detroit. That was rough. 44-30, and honestly, it felt worse than the score suggests. Yeah, the offense showed some flashes, had a few moments where you could see the rhythm starting to click, but man, the missed opportunities and turnovers just killed us. And most of our playmakers, the guys we desperately needed to step up in Week 14, they were pretty quiet out there. The defense, they made some stops, sure, but not nearly enough. Detroit made the plays when it counted, and that's what ultimately defined the game. Jared Goff was rolling out there, and when they brought pressure, he just flushed out and made plays. Then you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown catching passes wide open, taking it to the house. The guy was dancing all over our defense. Jahmyr Gibbs was pounding it up the middle, and Ferguson was making catches when we needed stops. It was just one of those games where nothing went right defensively. We kept asking ourselves, where's the fight? Where are the dogs? But by the time we got it together, it was too late. Now, don't get me wrong, the offense had its moments. Jake Ferguson made some plays, Ryan Fenoy stepped up huge when we needed him, and we actually got something going in spurts. There was a point where we thought, okay, now we got a ball game. But consistency, man, that's been our Achilles heel all season. You can't have a drive here and a drive there and expect to beat a team like Detroit that's firing on all cylinders. And then, late in the game, we're trying to mount a comeback, Dak drops back, throws into traffic, and boom, it's picked off. Lions take a knee, game over. That's the story of our season right there in one play. Fighting, clawing, getting close, and then one mistake just shuts the door on everything. But here's the thing, we've got a chance to bounce back. Week 15 against the Vikings, and there are some matchups we absolutely need to win if we want to keep this playoff dream alive. I've been breaking down film, listening to what the guys are saying, and there are some real opportunities here if we can just execute. Let's start with Aaron Jones versus our defense. Now look, I'm not going to sit here and fear anybody until our defense gives me a reason to fear them. I go into every game with a neutral slate. Like, all right, let's see what happens when the ball's kicked off. But man, when you start thinking back on these playoff games, every single time Aaron Jones has run against us at AT&T Stadium, it's been an absolute nightmare. We're at home this week, and I want to give our defense a shot here, because yeah, we looked horrible last week, but that Lions offense is legitimately top tier. I don't think the same about this Vikings offense. What we really need is for our offense to put points up quickly, make them play catch-up, and keep them from establishing that run game. Because if Aaron Jones gets 30 carries, it's curtains for us. The dude's got 83 attempts this season, 488 rushing yards, 9 touchdowns. He's been a beast, especially against us. But here's where I see a difference. Quinnon Williams and Kenny Clark. These two hogs in the middle, they weren't there when we were getting gashed by Aaron Jones as a Packer in previous years. Now we've got legitimate run stoppers in the trenches. Plus, J.J. McCarthy, let's be real, he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league right now. That's not me being mean, that's just objectively speaking. They're gonna have to run the ball 25, 30 times, but they're running into a wall with our interior defensive line.
Now flip it to the other side of the ball. Dak Prescott versus Brian Flores' scheme. This is where I actually feel pretty good about our chances. Dak excels against certain defensive looks, and one of them is the blitz. Brian Flores and his Vikings defense, they blitz almost 50% of the time. That leads the entire league. He's sending +1, sometimes +2. Could be a linebacker, could be a safety blitz, could be a nickel corner. You just know there's always that extra guy coming. And you know what that does? It takes someone out of coverage. That's huge for us, because George Pickens might have a bounce-back game with those slants, CeeDee Lamb gets one-on-one opportunities, and it's going to allow yards after the catch. Blitz Dak Prescott at your own peril, Brian Flores, because it might come back to bite you. If you want to give us one-on-one looks on the outside with CeeDee Lamb, Pickens, Ferguson, go right ahead, knock yourself out. There's a couple things working in our favor here. We've got Javonte Williams, one of the best blitz pickup running backs in the entire league. I feel really good about that. Also, it's a home game. If we were in Minnesota where it's loud and all we got is Tyler Booker hand-waving at the line trying to communicate, that might be tough. But at home, where it's quiet, Dak can call out protections, orchestrate things, point out the free rusher, and we'll be fine. The numbers back this up too. Dak has thrown for the second most yards in the NFL, completing passes at the second highest rate against the blitz. And the Vikings blitz at the highest rate in the NFL. That's a recipe for success if we can protect him. Speaking of protection and playmakers, let's talk about the elephant in the room, George Pickens. After that performance against Detroit, the hot takes came flying in fast. I heard Mark Schlereth and the boys on the Fan talking about it, and man, some of what they said just didn't sit right with me. They're saying they wouldn't pay Pickens, wouldn't invest a dime in him beyond this season. Schlereth was going off about how Pickens filmed his own slow-motion movie on Thursday night, how when he's not the target, he's not interested, not the right kind of guy. Look, that's absolutely ridiculous. This is Pickens we're talking about, the same guy who saved us when CeeDee Lamb went down with that high ankle sprain earlier. Who was cooking? Pickens. 100-yard games, taking over games. He had one bad day at the office against Detroit. It happens to everybody. Here's the thing though, if you're waiting all the way until week 15 to talk about somebody's downtime, they're probably not doing that bad. We've gotten this far, and now you want to have this conversation? Let me tell you what Pickens' job was against the Lions. When he's over there and Detroit decides he's not getting off, CeeDee Lamb gets 100 yards in one half. Then CD gets hurt, and Ryan Fenoy steps up and gets 100 yards in another half. Why? Because George Pickens is doing his job drawing double teams. Watch the film. Pickens was doubled almost every single play, and that opened everything up for Fenoy to have a career day. 9 catches, 115 receiving yards. George Pickens doesn't have to do anything different than what he's been doing all year. Just keep whooping folks. The Detroit Lions figured out a way to unplug the stove once CD went out in that particular game. Fine, plug it back in against Minnesota and let him cook. And speaking of Fenoy, every time he's been put in a situation where he has to step up, whether CeeDee Lamb is out injured or they're doubling George Pickens, he answers the call. He lives by the saying, light work, doing the Lord's favor and shining his light, making everything else easy. When any situation comes, he just goes out there and plays free. That's where his confidence comes from. Now, let's talk about what this all means. The Cowboys are sitting at 6-6-12 with an 11% chance to make the playoffs. The Vikings are 5-8, but don't look like a 5-8 team. They just absolutely shut out the Washington Commanders 31-0 in Week 14, coming off their best performance of the season. But like Dak says, it's all about us. We can't rely on the Philadelphia Eagles falling apart. Every game matters, starting with Sunday Night Football. This is Week 15, Cowboys versus Minnesota Vikings in prime time. The whole world's watching to see if the Dallas Cowboys can respond after getting embarrassed in Detroit. Can we show the fight, the passion, the execution when it matters most? Or are we just going to be another what-if team that couldn't get it together when the stakes were highest? Sunday night, we get our answer.